President Trump has claimed, quote, I have an Article 2 where I have the right to do whatever I want as president, end quote. He said that as recently as on August 26, he said, I have the right to do anything I want to do. I am the president of the United States. Do you believe that the president is able to do, quote, anything he wants to do? I'm just asking you if you think under our Constitution, the president has the right to do anything, as he said, he wants to do. Last October, you told a group of students that you believe that, quote, presidents are actually too weak, end quote. That's at Yale.
Senator Klobuchar.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Issues have already been raised about Delaware, and I have a lot of respect, as does everyone in this room, for Senator Coons and his views of who should, his ability to weigh in on who should be a judge in his state. But I'm going to put that aside. I know that's been raised, and I'm very concerned about that. I want to lead with what Senator Schmidt was asking about, and that is the Justice Scalia's comment that our Constitution separates powers to prevent the centralization of power in one person or one party, because when power is centralized in one person, the game is over, that's his words, for rights. So President Trump has claimed, quote, I have an Article 2 where I have the right to do whatever I want as president, end quote. He said that as recently as on August 26, he said, I have the right to do anything I want to do. I am the president of the United States. Do you believe that the president is able to do, quote, anything he wants to do?
Senator Klobuchar, of course, it's not for me to comment on individual, statements really by anyone else. The matter of presidential discretion, as this body knows, within Article 2 in the executive power, there are a number of responsibilities that the executive has within which the executive has full discretion.
Okay. I'm just asking you if you think under our Constitution, the president has the right to do anything, as he said, he wants to do.
Well, I suppose it depends. I don't know. I suppose it depends on the context of the remarks. Is kind of it was with respect my point. If we're talking about a pardon decision, if we're talking about nomination decisions, there are many ways in which the president has full discretion.
But you will not say that he doesn't have the power to do whatever he wants to do under the Constitution. He said anything he wants to do. He said the right to do anything I want to do. That's what he said.
Well, Senator, I guess I'm saying that presidential discretion depends on the context of the situation. You mentioned before separation of powers. Of course, also like we've talked about today, Congress has a lot of power.
You won't say it. So I guess the answer is clear. So last October, you told a group of students that you believe that, quote, presidents are actually too weak, end quote. That's at Yale. The president has unilaterally frozen appropriated funds, shuttered congressionally created departments, attacked the independence of the Federal Reserve and agencies Congress set to be independent, refused to put Democratic commissioners on independent commissions, imposed costly tariffs, detained individuals without due process, and gone after universities, law firms, and journalists. Do you still believe that, quote, presidents are actually too weak after these unprecedented power grabs?
So, Senator, without commenting on a lot of various actions and current issues that might be before the courts or currently are, my recollection of the context of the statement that you quote was that it was a conversation about presidential supervision of the executive branch, and at that time, my understanding of the Constitution, it remains to be that the president is vested with the executive power and therefore is in charge of the executive branch. And I believe I was making comments on that historically, as the Supreme Court itself has pointed out in different opinions, presidents have not always been free to fully supervise their branch. And I was putting forward a hope that the constitutional principles, as they are historically understood, would continue to be respected.
Okay, could we just move to guns here? As you know, we've had a number of horrific shootings in Minnesota this year, including involving assault weapon. So you have praised Justice Thomas's views on the Second Amendment, which are often in dissent, even on a very conservative Supreme Court. What is your understanding of the Second Amendment and whether Congress is permitted to pass laws to regulate the sale of guns? And I ask that because Scalia actually said, like most rights, the right secured by the Second Amendment is not limited. The right was a right to keep and carry any weapon whatsoever, was not a right to keep or carry any weapon whatsoever. And Thomas was the only one who struck down a law to stop domestic abusers from possessing a gun, legislation I worked on. He was also one of just 2 justices who would have struck down regulations of ghost guns. And in June 2025, he would have taken a case challenging Maryland's assault weapons ban. So what I want to know is, given that you've praised him, what is your view on your understanding of the Second Amendment and whether Congress is permitted to pass laws to regulate the sale of guns in any way?
So, Senator, I want to be careful as in all my answers of not straying into commenting on something that could come before me as a judge, but I agree with this, or would follow Supreme Court precedent that there is an individual right to bear arms, and that in looking case by case basis, it's important to look at the history and tradition of what the regulation of guns was at that time. And so if a case came before me raising that question, I would faithfully and fully apply Supreme Court precedent.
Thank you. I'd like to enter a letter into the record from 53 legal scholars. They write, quote, "We are united in our view that Professor Mascott would be an outstanding addition to the federal judiciary. Professor Mascott's impressive legal career includes service in all 3 branches of the federal government, in private practice and in the legal academy. Her work has been cited not just by many scholars, but by judges at every level of the federal judiciary, including the Supreme Court. Some of us agree with her analysis, others do not. We agree that, on the whole, Professor Mascott's academic work demonstrates the sort of intellectual rigor and depth that will serve her well during her career as a judge." End quote. Thank you. Senator Welch.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Professor Mascott, the Congress has authorized the creation of inspectors generals in fiscal year 24. It saved 71 billion. In fiscal 23, it saved 93 billion. Is it your view that Congress has the authority to establish inspector generals that review the appropriations and expenditures that Congress authorizes?
So, Senator, as with all the questions, I want to, in answering, stick with general principles in case there would ever be a case before me raising questions related to inspectors general. I don't understand there to have been a general constitutional question raised about inspectors general. I mean, I think with respect to the question about their role in the system, as I mentioned in prior discussions on executive power, it would always, of course, be important that the office is structured so that that position is ultimately under the supervision of the executive branch and ultimately the president. I realize that raises constitutional tension with the role of the inspector general to look at records.
There is a tension, okay? The Congress clearly has the right to appropriate funds, correct?
Yes, it's a constitutional power, of course, to appropriate funds.
And in the power to appropriate funds, do you contest the obligation that Congress has to make certain there's oversight in the expenditure of those funds?
Well, Senators, as the Supreme Court's indicated in precedent in the last couple of years, part of Congress's legislative power, yes, includes the ability to get records and to find out what's happening in the agencies that it legislates.